morning. Happy Taco Tuesday. Welcome to Adam versus the Man. Congratulations. You made it another day, another show, another episode of Freedom. Brought to you by Adam versus the Man. Thank you so much for tuning in. Going to get the promos out of the way right from the get-go here today, because the first thing is, before CJ gave me a list, our producer, our executive producer, coming to you from South Dakota today, gave me a list of my promos. We got to go boom, 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 boom. But first, share the show if you're listening, especially if you're watching this live or wherever you're watching it on social media, on your phone, whatever it is. Just know that you are a part of this operation of spreading the truth and the message of freedom in a way that just isn't true with the mainstream media. When you're either a customer or a pawn, you think like Facebook, right? You've heard the cliche about social networks. If the service is free, then you're the product. Well, in a sense, that's true about television and the mainstream media. They want to sell your attention. Now, we have advertisers, of course, here, but we're not trying to subvert you with government propaganda. That's the critical difference. We're not trying to use this platform to serve some greater corporate interests at the expense of freedom and humanity. So thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for sharing this show. And if you weren't already aware, if you happen to be listening to this or watching this from some other destination and didn't notice, there's a big URL on the bottom of the screen or in the notes if you're getting this as an audio file. Hopefully you're getting notes attached to it as well. But if you want to support the show, the main thing is AdamVersusTheMan.com. And when you go there, you can find a link to our Patreon, patreon.com/Adam versus the Man. Critical way to support the show. And so many others, and again, of course, it's all about Adam versus the Man when it's Adam versus the Man time. But when it's the principle here, I can't mention Patreon, right, without thinking of everybody else who wouldn't be able to do what they're doing in independent media if it weren't for that alternative funding mechanism outside of social media. So if you want to support our production, awesome. If you want to support someone else's, there are a lot of great things worthy of your support on Patreon. And again, if there's something that you value more than if you're hate watching Adam versus the Man, save your money. You're going to need it for therapy later. But if you're just dropping in and there's some other media production that you decide is more worthy of your support, I just encourage you to support whatever independent media outlet is valuable to you. So another way to do that with Adam versus the Man is at our website, AdamVersusTheMan.com. Executive producer CJ has put together an incredible selection of merchandise, and at our store at Adam versus the Man, if you're a producer club member or better than better Patreon, you get 15% off and free shipping on all your orders. Pretty cool opportunity there. And of course, our affiliate is CigarFederation.com. You can use promo code ADAM10, ADAM10 will get you 10% off your order there. And then you can join us for Cigars and Sunsets on Fridays. And finally, MakeThemDebate.com. We have a great debate manager with Mercedes out of Nebraska, and we're looking to make our second debate happen through this website. It might end up being Adam Loves the Man versus Cash Jackson. Yeah, that could be a lot. Who wants to bring back my evil twin brother, Adam Loves the Man? Nobody? No, I didn't think so. So we got a few news blocks today, a big grab bag. We have a Corona block, whether you like it or not. I mean, it's kind of unavoidable. I hate to say that, as this dark cloud hanging over everything, you really cannot ignore it. But yeah, it's nice to carve out a little space in the conversation to be as COVID-free as possible. By the way, let's get Comment Jim Freedom up on stage today. Comment Jim Freedom joined us from Phoenix. And Jim, if you would talk for 10 seconds. It looks like Marilyn here is chewing on something that's making some noise, and it's going to be wigging me out during the show. But part of the fun of an off-grid studio and the adventures of Gardenia, that needs to be on our plug list, CJ. Follow at the Garden of Freedom on Instagram. Jim, I read something since the last show. It's weird. I'm on like a 24-hour cycle from one show to the next, and then there's this weird break every week where it's like, wait a second, wasn't I supposed to have a show? No, it's Saturday. Okay. But I heard that someone figured out something better than a vaccine, just an absolute way to resolve the entire COVID crisis. And it's kind of a statist solution, so you might not like it, Jim. But I heard that Biden is just going to make COVID illegal when he takes off.
That should work, I mean, right? That works with illegal, drugs and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's illegal, it's not going to happen. It's because it's illegal. You make it illegal, it stops happening. I mean, that's how government works. Okay.
Prohibition. Start prohibiting viruses. Yeah. Why didn't we think of this with like the flu and, AIDS and cancer? I mean, come on. Cancer should be illegal. What the hell?
There ought to be a law. Anyway, Jim, so we got three big blocks today. The first one is a little election update. I would be remiss to not let you know what's happening in the Trump camp right now as he makes what looks to be a very awkward exit. We've got a block on military stories that just happened to pop up today. Made sense to put them in a block, and then just a big grab bag. But do we have a contest for today to win a membership in the Producers Club? We got room in the agenda. You think we can take calls on a Tuesday? Anybody can call in on a Tuesday?
We could give it a shot, see what happens. Yeah. Any interesting caller gets access to the Producers Club.
What was the last contest we had for callers as opposed to commenters?
I think it was to call in, and I don't remember at all. I thought my memory warehouse, I must have burned it already.
Well, do you have an idea for a new contest for this beautiful Taco Tuesday, Mr. Freedom?
Well, we're not really prepared for it, so no, I suppose not. I was just going to say we should do one of those quote things again, where CJ plays just the audio of a clip and you guess who it is or something. We should come up with one of them. We haven't done those in a while. You remember?
Yeah, those were fun, but it seemed like, I don't know, more work than it was worth, and it was kind of, it's a weird, what we were doing, for those of you who haven't been with us for the last, well, I guess we stopped doing this a couple of months ago without really talking about it, is that we were grabbing like random famous political speeches or libertarian speeches, and the contest was like, we play a short clip, and the contest was, can you guess or identify what the clip is from? And if someone wants to start organizing that and send us one every day in the Producers Club, I don't mind going back to that. But I don't know, it's a casual Tuesday, right? Feels like a casual Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like, I got the news down to what? How many stories? It's like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. It's actually only 18 because one of those is good news.
See,
it's usually a lot more.
I have the part required from this high office, bringing the Republic through this dark night. And if in my administration we shall see the break of dawn of the better day, I shall have done my part in the world.
I think I know what that is, but I'm not sure. Is that the contest for the day then, Jim?
CJ has declared, I guess. Yeah.
All right. That's our contest for today. So here's the deal. If you're the first one to call in with the correct answer, you win membership in the Producers Club, and you got to call in to make a guess at this one. So the link will be in the comments wherever you're watching this. I don't know, where are we streaming today, Jim?
We got 7 different platforms going on. You could even be watching on CJ's YouTube if you wanted, or your personal Facebook page, or your Adam vs. Man Facebook page. I got it going on my Facebook page. We got it going on CJ's Facebook page. We got it going on CJ's Internet Warlords Facebook page. We're posting it all kinds of places.
And somehow they find a way to censor all of those.
All of them. Yeah, they collect them.
But wherever you may be watching, Jim and CJ will be getting that link to call in into the comments. Jim, any comments you want to share with the rest of the audience today?
We got some good mornings from our favorite people. Matt Baxley says morning. Craig Darty saying morning. Mike Potting says from Facebook, loved the Freedom Book. Bought it a few years ago. Since then, I've had others read it as well. That's why, if you notice, I got a stack of them right here. These are all Freedom Books in my shelf over here, because I once took a box from you when I at a book site. You know, you were handing out books, and I was like, man, I wish I could. I know so many people that need some of these, and you were like, here, take a box. I was like, oh wow, really? I got rid of like half the box, and I kind of started slacking on handing them out. I need to start bringing a couple stacks with me when I go out recording and stuff.
Well, it makes me wonder.
CJ's. I was just going to say, CJ's pointing out,
projects.
You can see it on. Yeah, for sure.
Or just when we tour for the Hot, Dirty, and Dangerous war memoir book in next year, whenever, we'll bring some Freedom Books to pass out. We'll make sure that we raise the funds for another printing.
For sure. You can go to the Freedom line and get it in all digital formats for free, and you can read it right there from the site as well. So if you don't have a copy, you don't have to wait for anything. Yeah, it's real. It's real easy to read. So
paper, it's still on Amazon. But yeah, 100 pages or 3-hour audiobook, and that's free too.
If you're only paying for it because you think it benefits Adam some way, then I would just email Adam, donate whatever you feel like to him directly, and he'll personally mail you a signed copy instead of going through Amazon. You know.
Yeah, I get the convenience though.
Yeah, true that. Craig Darty chimes in. I think I would rather get COVID than see Adam loves the man again.
Speaking for Jim.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'm not the only one negatively affected. That's what I'm trying to point out here.
All right.
All right, you ready to get to your blocks?
Comments? Yeah, well, I'm going to do a block and check back in with you pretty quickly today. Hopefully we can keep it slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And we'll be able to cover a lot of ground, get through our stories, and take as many callers as we have people who'd like to call in. All right.
Sweet.
First story is from CNN.com. One of 2 stories that I want to share today to give a little insight update onto into what's going on with Trump resisting the election results. And before I go any further, I do have to point out that there is really one incredible silver lining to this little embarrassing episode of American politics, is that we now have overwhelming data that proves irrefutably Republican tears, Trumpkin tears taste just as good as liberal tears. And as fun as this has been to watch, it is still an embarrassment. And that it's dragged on this long how can you look at this system and not say that we need radical change? And I mean radical, striking at the root of the problem. This is not just an embarrassment, but it really, there really are a lot of consequences to this. The arbitrary, coercive nature of government is inherently in opposition to efficiency. And just having transitions like this, like, why can't we have why can't government change on a continuous basis and be responsive all the time? Why does it have to only allow itself to be held accountable periodically through election cycles? And you go, well, I know that's sort of jumping to perhaps an abstract ideal, but I hope the contrast is obvious. And again, you can't look at what we just went through with this election and say, oh yeah, this is a great way to make decisions for America or for we the people. No, no way. So the headline from CNN, House conservatives urge Trump not to concede and press for floor fight over election loss. President Donald Trump's staunchest defenders on Capitol Hill are urging him not to concede even after President-elect Joe Biden wins the electoral college vote next week, calling on their party's leader to battle it out all the way to the House floor in January as he makes unsubstantiated claims of widespread election fraud. Now, come on, CNN. If you're going to be critical of Trump, like, why throw your credibility away at the same time? Now, yes, there are unsubstantiated claims of election fraud. However, the mainstream media's coverage of this is so biased towards the establishment and the status quo that, I mean, if they felt any shame, they'd be feeling it right now. But they present this as if, oh no, election fraud's not a thing. We have safe, secure elections in the United States. And it's like, we don't. Not even freaking close. The fraud, manipulation, the just illegal activity, the lies, deception, everything around elections done by the old parties is it's the fraud of actual stolen votes is a regular thing. Voter suppression is a regular thing. Both parties do it all the time when they say those guys are cheating. For once, they're both right. The stealing of votes, even like that, where we have Republican secretaries of state, they steal votes from Democrats and vice versa. Sometimes it more local, I mean, depending on the election mechanism and where the incentives are to cheat, whether it's around toss-up House and Senate races, local races, or contested electoral college votes in swing states. The greatest check we have that limits the fraud is the disincentivization of it, but that's only because the old parties have such a lock on the system. The bigger fraud is that libertarians are kept out of the conversation or any third-party challengers. But this story here from CNN, back to this, one more paragraph from this. The view of Trump's defenders is at odds with that of many top congressional Republicans, including leaders of the Senate, who believe the election will be over next Monday when electors cast their votes and make Biden's win official, even though the Democrats' victory in the presidential race has been clear for weeks. But, next paragraph. Conservative House Republicans argue that next week doesn't mark the end of Trump's desperate efforts to overturn the election results, which he has failed to do through scores of fruitless lawsuits and brazen efforts to pressure state and local leaders to subvert the will of voters and appoint new slates of electors to the Electoral College. They said that Congress should engage in a full-throated debate over the results in key states because of their allegations of fraud, which have yet to be borne out in court. Now, this is one of the things, like, another big silver lining in this. What is Trump doing? I wish I could give him credit for this being intentional. I don't think it is. But Trump has, as a destabilizing force, significantly shaken people's confidence in the system. That's a good thing. Now, going back to 2016 and the early days of the Trump presidency, it was marked by his combative relationship with the mainstream media. And some people, I might be tempted in that sense to say, well, I'm grateful that Trump fundamentally altered America's relationship with the mainstream media. But it's not like he built that wave that was developed by people in independent media, people challenging the mainstream online. He was riding that wave, or kind of coming in and seeming to take credit for it. But here, I mean, in a sense, is it Trump? I don't know. You could give Trump himself credit, but I would argue that he's just filling the niche created by historical dynamics for a pompous, populist, fake billionaire reality TV star. Cheeto Jesus, Cadet Bone Spurs. And that destabilizing effect in all of this is actually something that we can appreciate. I think we can capitalize on as libertarians, but just people who want to see fundamental change. To say, so don't forget this. I know CJ's going to kill me for mentioning the virus, which shall not be named, but similarly to making sure that humanity learns the lessons, we the people, rather than the authorities, must write the history of COVID. And I hope a big part of what you appreciate we do with this show is at least take the long-term and the midterm historical context into account. And that same thing about writing the history is true about the 2020 election and making sure that America remembers the lessons. Just as we catch our breath, if we ever get a chance, out from under this black cap cloud of the coronavirus hanging over everything, and we get some, I don't want to say resolution to this 2020 election nonsense, because it's going to be like 16, right? Trump won and the Democrats denied it for 4 years. Now Biden won and the Republicans are going to deny it for 4 years. And you go, is this an escalation in the bullshit? Is this part of the government death spiral? But as Trump plays this angle, because voter fraud is such a regular freaking thing in America, he is getting traction in places with lawsuits. So the second headline in our election block, yeah, we're still doing an election block. Wait, wasn't the election in November? Yeah, we're still, and don't forget Senate elections still to be decided in Georgia in early January. But the next critical headline for the big picture today comes from the epochtimes.com. Arizona Supreme Court agrees to hear GOP election challenge lawsuit. And this is, there's a picture here with Arizona Republican Party Chairwoman Kelly Ward, who I've met. And she's a nice lady. Great political personality. But you don't get to be state chair of one of the duopoly parties without playing the game. And here she is playing the game, taking point for Trump in Arizona, contesting the ballot results here. But by and large, it looks like a lot of Trump's cases have been dismissed or rejected by judges who refuse to hear them when they're, unsubstantiated. And it's funny to hear people talk about Trump as if he gives a damn what you think. And that's one of the things that a lot of people like about him, is that he at least makes it look like he doesn't care what you think. And certainly he doesn't have a normal sense of shame like the rest of us do. So when he has this post-election strategy that seems to include a legal element of, see what sticks to the wall, trust me, there are other strategic considerations for Trump other than trying to look cool. No, if you hadn't noticed, he just raised $170 million with this effort. Now, is he playing 4D chess and really outmaneuvering everybody? Well, if he was, he would have won re-election in a landslide. That didn't happen. He's not as smart as his supporters claim he is. He is, however, a very stable genius. Man, woman, camera, TV, something. And he does have a bigger strategy here. And I think people dismiss that sort of, at least among the Democrats who are really, up against him tactically. I think they ignore that at their own peril. One of the things that Trump is doing is going for leverage, right? If he can simply make things more difficult for Biden, you can say, hey, I'll stop making it so gosh darn difficult if you just give me a little bit of what I want. That's how political back scratching works. But Trump is taking it to a new level, a new low. And while I don't want to celebrate that in and of itself, or his lowering of the integrity of the general conversation, or reduction of civility, if you want to give him credit for that, I do think that he is playing some other strategic angles here that we have yet to see play out, and we will continue following this story. Let's go back to Jim in the comments. Mr. Freedom, anything after that block? Any callers on the line? Let's see. I'm watching the Producers Club for callers. So you can just put them there when we get callers.
No callers just yet. Don't Be a Status says, good morning, fellow Status. I would have been here earlier, but I was delayed when the Stingray in front of me killed a pedestrian. That's from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, in case you missed it.
Oh, nope. Didn't get that reference. Thank you, Mr. Status.
I purposely read it out before putting it up there so you couldn't see the answer. I wanted to see. I didn't get it either, so I was.
As if I don't have enough confused looks on my face over the course of a 2-hour episode.
Yeah. Vincent Willis points out, as my mom mentioned to me earlier, and as I already knew when I woke up, 40 years ago today was the death of John Lennon. Vincent Willis here corrected himself later. He says 40 years. He accidentally put 39, but it was 40 years ago today. John Lennon was shot in the back in front of his home, the Dakota, in New York City. He was 40, killed by Mark David Chapman.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not going to hear that in the good news, so thanks for adding it. I've been there, by the way. I went there specifically to see where John Lennon was shot, and to go to the strawberry fields in Central Park. I don't sound too cheesy, but you can feel John Lennon's energy in the neighborhood. Yeah. It has been preserved one way or another.
Awesome. I feel John Lennon's energy at all times. 1054 weighs in. He says, promised my mom I'd tell you guys this. She gets a kick that the word pandemic is panic with dem in between.
I'm like George Carlin. I leave symbols to the symbol-minded. And if you are so desperate for symbols that you are going to read into semantics and get your etymology wrong, then I have no patience for that. But thank you for sharing the idiocy. I don't want to make fun of your mom, but no, the irrationality of statists. And I don't know. I don't want to pick this apart too much, but I actually have a bit of a pet peeve with this because I'm not a grammar Nazi, but I am a definitions Nazi. Wait, am I a Nazi? Anyway, there's a government. There's a meme that gets passed around in certain circles online where it says government. Govern is to control, and ment is of the mind, like mental. And it's like, no, it's a suffix. Like, you know what suffixes are? It's not govern and meant put together. No. And it's like, oh, so it means they came up with this word, and it's just the dumbest thing. Like, so they came up with this word to tell you that they're doing mind control. Like, they put dem in the middle of panic so that Dems would panic, and we built that in. Like, no, that's not how words work. And I get it. You want to play your silly little, I'm a wordy too. Scrabble is my official family blood sport on my mom's side. So, I get it, but that just seems like the dumbest kind of wordplay and a kind of intellectually disingenuous trying to project something that isn't there into the sounds of words. Nah, don't buy it. But thanks for the comment.
Yeah. Well, Empty Matter has a suggestion. John Lennon was shot by Jared Leto. What are you talking about, LOL? I'd never heard that one. But while we're talking about different circumstances of Lennon's death, a lot of people think it was just a crazy fan, Mark Chapman. He heard a voice in his head and he was crazy and he went there and he shot him. I suggest that it would. Yeah, John Lennon was going to expose Paul McCartney, and he was going to reveal that Paul McCartney died in 1966, and the guy that's calling himself Paul McCartney is actually somebody else. Yeah, he was going to expose that, and that's why he got shot. So look that one up.
Jim, I remember you watched the documentary about that here in the camp kitchen. I dropped in for like the second half with the Apples, and I didn't get enough of a sense to determine decisively whether I believed in it or not, or to even get a complete take on it. All I really took away is there's a pretty credible theory there. Like, and it's a kind of serious conspiracy theory to suggest that well, the for those of you that don't know, the basic, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think you know more about this than I do, but the crux of the theory is that Paul died in a vehicle accident, and the British government was so concerned with the fallout from that, and they wanted to keep the Beatles going, that they took someone who had been the winner of a Paul McCartney impersonation contest, and gave him a little plastic surgery and training and schooled him up and plugged him in and said, guess what, you're Paul McCartney now.
Yeah, because they said that if the news of Paul's death was made public, there'd be a rash of suicides by young women. And you see the Beatlemania and the way the girls acted, you know what I mean? I want to marry him and all that crap. I mean, there was hysteria, definitely. And according to George Harrison, he said he believed that, yeah, there would have been, you know, a lot of suicides. He could see that happening if that news had come to pass. So, see, this is all like, see, look, you can even see this label at the bottom, CNN. These are people talking about Mark Chapman and painting it to be he's just some psycho that killed him because he was a hypocrite.
Jim, let me jump ahead and maybe we can get back to comments here. But the theory is one that from what I know, there's no really obvious ways to discount it. Like, it actually fits pretty well with known historical events. There's not like some crazy leap of, like, as far as political, and the thing is that, look, what's the consequence of this? Like, if you could choose to blow the lid off one conspiracy, this better not be your first choice, right? Because there are way bigger ones and way more important ones. But Jim, am I wrong about any of that? And you know, how do you look at this theory as a whole, and what odds do you give it of being true?
Well, maybe I'm a little bit biased, as sometimes I consider it's possible that I'm a reincarnation of John Lennon. But I, having watched the whole documentary, maybe that's it. Maybe you need to watch it from beginning to end. I don't know if that would sell it for you exactly, but I put it at a high probability. I put it at a high probability myself. The way I do things is I listen to information and I go with what my gut instinct tells me about it or how I feel about it, you know. And when I hear all the evidence of this, obviously before I ever watched that documentary, I had seen all the main story and about, you know, the mainstream story about how he was killed and with Mark Chapman and all that. And I understood that as a concept. And then when I heard the alternative theory, I just go by which one feels right, I guess, to me, you know, based on the evidence. And the latter feels more accurate. I would put it at 90% or better, probably.
Well, Jim, I'm glad.
And as far as one more thing, as far as the importance of it, you're right. I mean, I can see where you're saying there's a lot more important conspiracies that we should, if you got to unlock one conspiracy and prove it absolutely true, there's probably more important ones with higher impacts. But I don't know, this one seems the most provable to me. And if we could prove the depth of how far they would be willing to go back then, and just the understanding that they can keep it going for this long, you know, that in itself would probably cause people to question everything, and all conspiracy theories would be under fire because of that. You know what I mean?
Now,
maybe this one is believable enough, because if we exposed that, yes, you know, I mean, I don't even know, all this stuff is already exposed, so I can't think of anything that hasn't been exposed, you know, but we give a ridiculous, ungodly amount of money to other terrorist countries and all this and that stuff. That's a conspiracy we can prove.
Here's a big example you might just that occurs to me off the top of my head is chemtrails, geoengineering. It's we know that it's happening. We have no idea to what extent and to what degree government is involved, and that would be sort of an immediate thing that we're gonna. There's some conspiracy here. To how big is it? We don't know. But Jim, this gives me an idea, and I don't know. Maybe someone's already come up with this, but why not have a citizenship or a citizens inquiry into the death of Paul McCartney, or into this theory and the death of John Lennon. And I think at this point you could kind of pinpoint in the records. I mean, what in British intelligence agency did they say did this?
MI5.
Okay, so if it was MI5, they've got. I mean, what do they burn all the records? You know, like there's got to be some way that we can that people could come together and petition the relevant government agencies and just request an answer to simple questions and specific records. And can you say decisively that this was not the case? Although it's one of those things. Can you prove a negative? It might be a fool's errand, but there is, I think, some potential value in just calling attention to it. And if you could expose this, if you could get the government to release records that proved that some version of this conspiracy theory was true, there would be pretty significant implications. I mean, there essentially zero implications, like immediate, like what happens now? Well, now we all know, but knowing is half the battle. And in this case, knowing that intelligence agencies, even going back that far, were capable of such, creepy deception. I think more people need to know those stories. But then, even then, to achieve that goal, do we need John Lennon and Paul McCartney's story? No. I mean, there's the Tuskegee experiments, and I mean, there's so many other little things like that you could go back on and be like, no, our government's been paying off terrorists and organizing false flags and lying to the American people for about as long as it's been in existence, right? So, is there really even any value to proving MI5 did this decades ago? If the government releases the records, it means that they wanted to, But you could be able to identify maybe like a gap in the record and say, we want this document. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about documentation. I always wondered, like, if they did a conspiracy this big, why wouldn't they destroy all the evidence? Like, why would they just, let's just keep this proof that we did this in this file cabinet for somebody to steal and reveal one day? When governments do things like that, why wouldn't they get rid of everything afterwards and having got away with it? The only real thing I think we could do, and this would be up to the fake Paul McCartney, is do a DNA test in some sort of live setting and some sort of, shut the conspiracy theorists up type of thing. But if he would never do that, that kind of lends to the conspiracy. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm not going to prove who I am. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
If I was, famous or not, I guess, I feel like if there was a significant amount of people to where there's an actual legit documentary and you could look shit up and you could Google shit about this conspiracy and it was about me and people were suggesting that I was a plant and somebody else, I feel like I would be encouraged, especially if I was known like this, I would be encouraged to go out publicly and say, look, here's an undeniable DNA test that I'm going to do live stream just to, settle the score. But I mean, obviously, you can't do that if you're the fake guy. If you're the fake guy, you can't do it. Yeah, it could be faked, but why not at least try it just to shut people up? He don't care. That's why he's filthy rich and living his own life. That's why it don't make no difference to him.
He got paid off more than anybody else.
You're right, though. There are many more important things, and what you brought up, the chemtrails, is definitely a perfect example. That's an even more important conspiracy that deserves more of our time, I suppose. Don't be a statist chimes in. Most important conspiracy ever: the bird did not fly for 14 days straight.
Yes, it
article
did.
like 2 months ago, and I think it was 11 days, but I don't remember. What up, CJ?
Good morning, gentlemen. Yeah, more important conspiracies like weather modification, where the CIA on their own website admits that weather modification is real, and we've got the documents, and we're going to prove it today that that they've been modifying the weather. That's way better than COVID, if you ask me. But yeah, so the CIA admits that they weather modify. So just had to make sure that gets in the show today.
Oh yeah, no, that was actually in line with I think what I was saying earlier, Cedar. At least I meant it to be that we know that it's a thing. We know that HARP is a thing. We have seen enough photos. We know that this is kind of a widespread thing. But some of those photos are just contrails, not chemtrails. And, there's a lot of, there are a lot of crazy people who are attracted to a subject like this, or crazy people who are just acting crazy because they're actually government plants sent to discredit a movement. There's always that. But yeah, it's the question with, I guess you could call it the geoengineering conspiracy or set of conspiracies globally. Excuse me. We know they're there. We just don't know how big they are, how destructive they are, and how much we're all being poisoned by whatever it is they're spraying. Like that's, just one example. Anyway, all right. Any other comments before we get to our little military block today? I like to call it little military because there's a false masculinization within the military. So I like to demean that and cut them down as much as possible. Look at the army men in their cute little uniforms. No? All right.
All right. Let's get
any other comments?
No, let's go to news.
All right. MSN.com has this next headline from AFP. U.S. military rejects one-sided report, and that's in quotes, one-sided report on Afghan civilian deaths. You think if they really wanted to, not let people know that they kill civilians, they wouldn't respond to this, right? It seems like we got a little Streisand effect going here. The U.S. military in Afghanistan on Tuesday rejected a one-sided report that found civilian casualties caused by American and coalition airstrikes soared after Washington relaxed its rules of engagement. The number of civilians killed annually in the strikes increased by 330% from 2016 to 2019 as the U.S. escalated attacks on the Taliban, according to the Costs of War Project at Brown University. Now, there's something so fundamentally dishonest about the military, and I would say in its premise. This isn't protection that we get from government, except mafia-style protection. This is a protection racket. If you're in the military, you're a welfare whore. Yeah. How do you like that for reverse messaging? Think about it. You get paid with tax dollars to do stuff that the free market mostly wouldn't support. Yes, the free market would support defense, but it would not support drones killing civilians, invading countries that never attacked us, all of the fraud, waste, and abuse from top to bottom within the U.S. military. And it's just funny. This is from Brown University. Now, why? When the Pentagon has budgets in the trillions, why can't we get reliable numbers out of them? Why do we have to turn to university studies that seem to know what's going on in the military better than the military knows itself? It's because of that fundamental dishonesty. And surprise, surprise, people who are willing to take stolen money for their salary and kill innocent people for politicians, lying's not a big deal. And next to those kinds of crimes, next to war crimes. The report linked the increase to Washington loosening the criteria for strikes as it reduced the number of U.S. troops on the ground. Airstrike killed 700 civilians last year, the highest toll since the war began in 2001-2002, with the Afghan Air Force now harming more Afghan civilians than at any time in its history. said Nita C. Crawford, co-director of the project. But Colonel Sonny Leggett, spokesman for U.S. forces in Afghanistan, said the analysis was one-sided. Yeah, it's one-sided towards the truth from your bullshit, sir, and relied on disputed data that ignores civilian casualties caused by the Taliban and ISIS. Yeah, deny, deflect, typical response of criminals, low-integrity people. Leggett also defended Afghan security forces, saying they had taken an extraordinary amount of effort and care to prevent civilian casualties. The U.S. eased back on airstrikes after agreeing to a peace deal with the Taliban in February 2020, but Afghan forces have filled the breach even as they entered talks with the insurgents. While total deaths from airstrikes have fallen this year, casualties from Kabul's forces have accelerated in recent months. According to the report, Crawford said some 86 Afghan civilians were killed and 103 injured in Afghan airstrikes in the first 6 months of the year. And then in the next 3, despite Afghan Taliban talks in Doha, the toll intensified with 70 civilians killed and 90 injured. And just to wrap up this story here, I'm going to take this opportunity to toast Chelsea Manning and Julian Assange. The information that they revealed about the criminality of the global war on terror, the occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan, particularly the collateral murder video. If you haven't seen that, look it up, collateral murder. It's the video from a helicopter where, the military recorded itself shooting up a van full of citizen journalists. And it just absolutely tragic. And I want to point out that I think these two heroes have actually already saved more lives than we know, because putting that scrutiny onto the military that happens over time as we become more connected. And as you know, I like to say my cheesy line about how it's harder to make war than ever before. In the age of the internet, you simply cannot convince millions of gullible young men to dress up in silly costumes and meet in the middle of a field where none of them live and kill each other because they're wearing different colors. And the technology means nothing without deliberate, conscientious use. And for helping humanity realize the potential of the internet to put a check on murderers acting under color of law, or perhaps camis of law. Oh, bad. Oh, that was a terrible dad joke about military uniforms. But to all of those who commit murder in the name of the U.S. military, the fact that we're even able to scrutinize their activity the way that we are today is an incredible mark of human progress, and I think something that we owe Assange and Manning thanks for helping advance. A couple other military news stories in the block today. The first one actually just came to our producers club while we were doing, actually no, the first one is the one that we had at the beginning of the show from Associated Press, yahoo.com. The headline is Army to Fire Suspend Fort Hood Troops Over Violence at Base. U.S. Army leaders are expected to fire or suspend a significant number of officers and enlisted soldiers at Fort Hood, yada, yada. But then, just as we were doing the show today, we got a link in our producers club. Thank you very much. I believe that was Craig. From usatoday.com, panel blasts Fort Hood leaders, Army after disappearance, death of Specialist Vanessa Guillen, 14 fired or suspended. So it looks like there's already significant action being taken. And someone in our producers club also who's been to Fort, I have been to Fort Hood. I've never been stationed there. I was in the Marines. But with Iraq Veterans Against the War, I visited a couple times and just, seeing friends and being around the area. And Fort Hood is notoriously one of the worst military bases in the U.S. Or in the world. Forgot. Yeah, U.S. military bases are all over the world. The report released Tuesday represents a scathing indictment of a dysfunctional Army culture. and called for changes in staffing and programs to protect soldiers from assault. It found systemic failures, starting with Army leaders who failed to address known problems with sexual assault and crime, to understaffed and resource programs to aid victims and investigate crimes. Now, this you might hear this as we're cleaning up the Army, but let me make a little analogy that should help understand this just a little bit better. When a cop shoots an innocent person and gets caught one way or another, the department has to respond. And their response is not based on doing the right thing. They are the police after all. Same thing with the military. Their response is based on CYA, keep the racket going. If you run a mafia gang, for example, and you have your lieutenants and your enforcers out on the streets, and one of them gets a little crazy. He's violent. He's roughing people up. And he stepped too far over the line, and he killed someone, and everybody in your territory is outraged. Well, if you just take him out and shoot him, you're more likely to be able to divert that outrage than absorb it and let it be channeled towards lasting change or challenging of your protection racket. So it's the same thing with the military in this case. So one more story before we get back to comments and calls, not quite military, but yeah, all right. ABAjournal.com has this headline: U.S. can kill its own citizens without review when state secrets are involved, DOJ lawyer argues. Now, right away, I am, and this headline from Deborah Cassens-Weiss, who knows if her editor changed it around into this typical, newspeak kind of format, but why not say DOJ lawyer argues U.S. can kill its own citizens without review? But there is something in this case about sort of sensationalizing the subject or putting the lead before the source, and that it gets people. It's this good alarmism. This is what you should be afraid of, and this is something that has happened before with the United States government killing civilians because of terrorism or whatever mistaken intelligence. But it's where is that line? When does a government get to kill its own citizens? Well, if state secrets are involved, they can just do it whenever. Certain people can just do it whenever they feel like it, according to this one U.S. Department of Justice lawyer who argued Monday that the United States can kill its own citizens without judicial review when litigation would reveal state secrets. The argument drew alarm among judges on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. Courthouse News Service reports Judge Patricia Millett characterized the DOJ's argument as giving the government the ability to unilaterally decide to kill U.S. citizens, according to coverage of the argument by Courthouse News Service. Do you appreciate how extraordinary that proposition is? Now, this shouldn't really be news to anyone. That the U.S. government kills American civilians. That's kind of always been a thing with this monstrosity of a Leviathan here. But where is that line? How much do we let them get away with? Now, I would say that, looking at the presidency, the power of the presidency, it's already way too powerful. And basically, the president can kill anybody on earth whenever he feels like it and has the power to cover it up. That's, well within the power of the presidency. I mean, with some exceptions and with some reason, but if you have to cover it up and go to lengths to do that, that kind of limits how many people you can murder. But if you can tell the DOJ, oh yeah, anybody who's got a case who's involved with state secrets, go ahead and kill them. Wow. Because it's not just, oh, hey, here's a relaxed standard. It's not just, hey, here we are allowing for the government to kill more people. We know that that's going to happen if this were the argument that were accepted out of this case. But also that if you say, oh, well, yeah, sure, feds, we trust you. Yeah, if there's someone who's got state secrets something like that. And there's some, you just kill them. We don't need to review it. Go ahead. Well, how do you know if they had state secrets or not? Did they tell you? Well, if they told you, they weren't secrets. And what that means is that the government can just, that guy we killed because we didn't like him, he had state secrets. Yeah, that's why we did it. So you see that it really does open a dangerous door if this is accepted. I don't think it will, but this is still a story worth covering because it does reveal the attitude of the government lawyers and politicians to their authority, which is give us as much as we can get away with. The government's brief in the case supplies details of the lawsuit. The plaintiff, Bilal Abdul Karim, is a U.S. citizen who works as a journalist in Syria for the On the Ground Network news channel, which provides access to the views of rebel fighters. The militants are linked to Al Qaeda, according to the courthouse service. Karim alleges that he was narrowly missed by 5 military strikes that he thinks were carried out by the U.S. military as a result of his inclusion on a kill list. He suggests that he was put on the list because of metadata from electronic devices, and he doesn't meet the guidelines for inclusion. The government sought to dismiss the case, invoking the state secrets privilege, because Karim sought discovery on whether he had been targeted, the process the government used to target him, and whether the United States had attempted to kill him. A federal judge agreed with the government. Yeah, the federal judge agreed with the government here. Well, no shit, they are the government, right? But this shows you that this argument being made by this attorney is not out of the blue. It doesn't can we start killing people now because of it? No. This has been going on for at least the secrecy around this and the assertion of the government to use the state secrets privilege to bully and harass individuals. To what extent are they actually going after bad guys? Who knows? But we know that in a lot of cases, that's not what they're doing, because if they were, they wouldn't have to cover it up like this. And I get it. Yeah, there's such a thing as operational secrecy. Basic, jurisprudence, whatever, prudence standards, everything that we have built into the mechanisms in the American legal system can handle that. In its appellate brief, the government argued that Karim lacked standing because he makes an unsupported assertion about being targeted in a war zone. Even if he had standing, the government argued the state secrets privilege forecloses litigation of his claim. DOJ lawyer Bradley Hinshelwood acknowledged during the hearing that a strike against U.S. citizens is a serious undertaking. He said the courts have a role in deciding whether the state secrets privilege is appropriately applied, according to Courthouse News Service. But Karim's lawyer, Tara Jordan Plachaki, argued that the federal government was seeking to expand sovereignty allowed under the state secrets privilege. Yeah, no kidding. Quote, whether that's in a parking lot in the United States or abroad in Syria, the government has claimed for the first time ever in this case that it has unfettered and unreviewable discretion to kill U.S. citizens at will. Just keep in mind, it already does. But the checks on the system and the public scrutiny so far have at least kept a limit on this in such a way that you don't see any kind of, major chunks of people disappearing. So let's keep paying attention, not letting government get away with any more evil. With that, we go back to the comments. Mr. Freedom, what do we have from the audience? Any guesses on the clip? We should play the clip again, yeah?
We have not had any guesses or call-ins yet. Everybody's being camera shy, or they're already in the producers club and they're not trying to
had the honor of
come
the
in and ruin it.
presidency that I have contributed to the part required from this high office, bringing the republic through this dark night. And if in my administration we shall see the break of dawn of the better day, I shall have done my part in the world.
It's one of those famous guys from like a long time ago, for sure. I can narrow it down to that. All right, Jim. Any so you can win membership in the Producers Club if you can guess. I mean, just if we don't have any guesses, just who that is in that clip. But if there's a tiebreaker, goes to identifying the occasion and date and any other
Content.
immediate identifying details of the content in question. You can put it in a comment, although Jim's not going to read any of the comments that are contest entry guesses until the end of the show if we don't get any callers. But you can also comment with just your random thoughts, and I'm always grateful to have the feedback of the audience in the most important part of the show, which I think is, what's the most important part of the show? Probably my shirt, the same one I wear every single day. But no, the sort of journalistic venture that we've taken on here is not just showing you a comprehensive view of current events, but also perspective and analysis that is empowering and as comprehensive as it can be in a 2-hour show. And I really do appreciate when people point out that I'm wrong. That doesn't happen very often. But what does happen quite often is that I miss an angle on a story, or I missed one other historical point, and I'm really grateful for all the comments that help us out editorially, journalistically, in that vein. Anything? Any other comments at all to share, Jim? Or do I got to take a time to get into the second half of the show?
They're pointing out that they would love to drone Snowden, and there goes the whistleblower protections. There they go further. Anyway, as you pointed out, those whistleblower protections obviously haven't existed, or our whistleblowers of late would be protected.
Yeah, it is kind of a pandering thing to say we have whistleblower protection. Can you put that comment back up for a second?
There goes the whistleblower protections.
No, what was it? What was the one before that?
They would love to drone Snowden.
Yeah. So about that, I had a thought that, why don't they drone Snowden? Jim, what would you say to that?
I guess they know where he is. They have to know where he is, right? Or unless he's that good at hiding his trail because he's on that,
No, he's in the hands of the
maybe
Russian
he's
government,
smart enough to hide
right?
himself. Yeah.
No, I mean he's I don't know what the term would be, but a ward of the Russian government. He's got some special legal status there where they monitor him. But I don't think I guess if the Russian government said we want to keep your location secret, then it would be, and if they don't, then it's not. But yeah. I would say the reason that they don't drone Snowden is that he's too visible. And if something happened to him, people would notice, and he has enough eyeballs on him that people would ask serious questions. And I'd like to think that I'm in at least the same category, if not at the same level, where I am somewhat protected from government persecution as a result of having some visibility. And I would just point this out, that it's something that we can all be aware of, especially in terms of social media and looking out for neighbors and things like that. But if I hear people say, "Oh, I'm getting off Facebook because I don't want them to be able to track me." No, in this world, you want them to be able to track you, and by them, it's more, because if government can, then your friends and family and everybody you're connected to can. And then it's a lot harder to disappear you or murder you without putting in a huge amount of effort to cover it up or make it look like an accident. And I hear people say, I'm getting off Facebook because I don't like them spying on me. And it's like, well, now if the government wants to disappear you, less people will notice.
Yeah. I guess it could just be his. But I mean, they want to bring him home alive and prosecute him and pretend that they're doing it all the legit legal way, right? They don't want to assassinate him because we would all know it was them, and they would put blood on their hands.
Right. They'd rather sort of suppress his message and discredit him and keep the racket moving. And if there's any kind of, really, I think they'd be happy to just let him disappear. If Snowden doesn't really do anything else with his life except hide in Russia and comment on Twitter, they're probably okay with that. Like, that's a good outcome for them.
Damage
right?
control, yeah.
I mean, compared to the impact of his original leaks, how much impact is he going to have the rest of his life if all he does is, I don't mean to say this is insignificant, but if he does like Twitter commentary and he does interviews and, TED Talks and guest lectures and things like that. And that's all great and very important. I don't, want to dismiss or discourage that in any way, but that seems like an acceptable low risk outcome for them. Anyway, any other comments before we get to we got the Corona block next? Yay!
Oh yay, good time. So we can't wait for the Corona block.
What is CJ playing on the screen here?
He's enjoying a little bit of fear porn, I think.
They're
playing
me. It's just buzzing.
Well, now he's playing something else about the Florida senator, but he was playing a video of these little tiny drones that it was like a TED Talk some guy was giving about the possibility of miniature drones used as assassinations.
We make it our deterrent like our nuclear deterrent. We stockpile in the millions, the billions.
At key facilities, the White House, the New York Stock Exchange, Wall Street.
Well,
what is this, CJ? What's this
it's from a movie. It's from a movie of some kind.
We're like, bending the journalistic lines here when we play movie clips without proper context in the middle of a news show.
A news show, yes, Adam. A news show. Corona's not news anymore. It's a joke.
What movie was that?
You're just playing this. So you're just playing this right now in protest of Corona.
Absolutely.
No.
It's called civil disobedience, actually.
Well, I feel like he was playing that in particular, the drone thing, while we were talking about whether or not
for journalistic credit, micro drone killers, arms, robots, autonomous artificial intelligence warning, and it's basically saying that you can have these little micro drones that can assassinate anybody with surgical precision. Governments can use them to assassinate political people all over. I mean, I played drone footage of people literally dying, and you're worried about whether or not
the movie stuff afterwards.
Movie credit is gonna hit YouTube. Like, come on, man! Like, of course I don't want to do Corona. Who wants to do Corona?
I don't want to. Well, CJ, you don't have to worry about Corona anymore. When Biden takes office, he's gonna eradicate it by making it illegal.
Yeah, only that's how it actually worked.
It's going to be illegal.
Corona-free zones.
Have Corona. Corona-free zones. I don't know why we're doing like masks and temperature checks. Why not just deal with Corona the way we deal with guns and put up Corona-free
I'll put it to you this way:
signs in front of schools.
It's journalistic suicide to latch onto COVID every single broadcast. That is a fact. By the end of 2020, people are not going to want to tune in to a COVID content related daily broadcast. I mean, regardless, it's everywhere. Like if COVID's everywhere, we don't broadcast the seasonal flu like this. We don't dedicate a part. Like 3 years ago, Adam's not going live.
They're not using the seasonal flu to take over the world.
Here. Yeah, CJ, I'm not. I'm not suggesting that this should take over the show, but I think it would be
affected this show. I'm changing this logo to Adam versus the COVID, and that Freedom logo is going to be infected with coronavirus.
Well, we restarted in this format because of Trump's Corona press conferences. Like right.
No, you stopped traveling the country and interviewing people, and imagine if I was producing internet man on the street videos instead of this format show daily. So yes, COVID has impacted your YouTube strategy, your man on the street videos, your way of preaching your message. That's an undisputable fact. But I would much rather talk about how they're making micro drones to assassinate people with little 3-gram pellets of explosives right to the dome, and they'll drone people in their farms. I mean, do you really think there's going to be anywhere safe in the world, Adam, at all? Like,
I think there already is. No, hold on. Just hold on. I got to respond to a couple things. First of all, your flu analogy doesn't really hold water here, because how much am I actually covering the coronavirus? How much am I covering daily death counts or spread or cases?
No, I'm not saying that your coverage of it is I'm not disputing your analysis of it in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. Just that it's too much airtime.
I'm just saying that we're giving it too much credibility, too much airtime by it taking up all of the content of a show in large blocks. So I'm asking for like ground rules. So we have a designated Adam versus the COVID segment. We have, and then every time you say COVID after the COVID segment, you have to donate one cryptocurrency dollar to the COVID research charity of your choice. And then you're going to start supporting COVID for every time you say the word COVID on your show.
All right. Well, how about we at least keep it to, I'm thinking the as a sort of editorial policy here, it's probably time to say, let's confine the COVID block every day to 10 minutes.
Can we cure the disease from this show, please?
We can cure the problem.
But will the cure be worse than that disease too? I mean, come on, man.
Except when we have like a big
sticking our heads in the sand is not the answer.
No.
Yeah. No, and CJ, like, this is one thing that maybe we have not examined sufficiently with COVID is, you know, what is the emotional and perspective effects on all of us? You know, just even if you're a Zen Buddhist monk who's perfectly centered and unaffected, you're going to be affected by being surrounded by people who are extremely stressed. You know, and one of the stories, you know, that I touched on in the block yesterday, but didn't get into, was about how American mental health is at an all-time low. And it's not worth getting into that every time there's a new little data point or statistic or headline about it. But you know, it's getting ugly. You're going to be affected by this. And, you know, like my wife at one point, she came to me, and this was months ago. She said, I'm tired of pretending like this isn't affecting us. And I think at some point there's that temptation. And CJ, it sounds to me like you're voicing that temptation right now of just saying, fuck it, it's all a waste of time, it's all annoying, stupid shit. Well, you know what? So is government. We cover government. So is evil. We cover evil. We cover the great injustices of the world, and therefore, you know, we have that same journalistic responsibility to, maintain some continuous coverage of COVID, and it is the biggest single story, social dynamic phenomena of the day.
We choose to give it time. So what I'm saying is we contain the virus. Okay, we stop the spread into every facet of this show,
yes,
morning, noon, and night, and we produce content outside of that. So I mean,
I like it. The policy is we're never going to have a bigger than 10-minute Corona block and maybe one featured story, and then if days we don't have a full block, we'll skip it. It'd be nice.
Adam, I have prepared before when you got to COVID. I had already prepared footage of the top 20 alien sightings of all time, because I would rather talk about aliens than COVID.
Well, we have a story about that coming up too in just a minute. I got 6 stories in my COVID block. I'm going to bust them out in 10 minutes, and then we'll get to our grab bag.
I feel like CJ is having the same reaction to this COVID blocks as I was to Adam Loves the Man.
Yes.
All right, well, did you have an intro or something you want to like play me off with?
I mean, oh man, I'm working on it. I promise you. But yeah, that is happening. Look for it. It's coming. I've heard your voice in the comments. I've seen you in the patron chats. COVID needs to be contained. We will stop the spread of this virus into every segment of this show. We will deliver you actual content with real stories that matter to you. And I only ask for your help in the Producers Club as the executive producer. Help me find stories that haven't been infected by COVID, please.
Yes, and hey,
Thanks.
one area that's mostly clear of COVID interference or shadows is just the positive tech stories. We got a couple of those to get to today as well. So our
Real
COVID
quick,
block
Real
timing.
quick, I'm gonna leave you with this, and then you can. Who said it? What was the event? Year for the tiebreaker.
Is he playing it right now?
I don't hear it.
I thought he was gonna play it right now.
All right, but that's that. I guess that's the contest. We'll get if you didn't catch the clip, we'll play it again towards the end of the show. All right, you ready? Time me, Jim. Corona block, motherfuckers. APnews.com has this headline from Danica Kirka: route out of pandemic. UK gives first COVID-19 vaccine doses. So yeah, this is a headline you can't skip. A retired British shop clerk received the first shot in the country's COVID-19 vaccination program Tuesday, signaling the start of a global immunization effort intended to offer a route out of a pandemic that has killed 1.5 million. Now, you know what's more interesting to see is how they roll this out, you know, in what chunks. And we'll be coming back to this story, but just be aware for now, the COVID vaccination rollout has started. Our next headline from the Associated Press via yahoo.com: Mexico's president calls virus lockdowns dictatorship. Coup in Mexico in 5, 4. This is a really interesting moment in the whole saga of Corona, and governments around the world taking this as an excuse to increase their power through lockdowns, shutdowns, mandates, economic controls, increased taxes and spending, loans, etc., etc. But bucking that trend, Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador suggested Wednesday that politicians who impose lockdowns or curfews to limit COVID-19 are acting like dictators. And again, like Trump has a general destabilizing effect, it might be on the global stage that we see in the wake of the coronaphobia crisis. Mexican President Obrador is the one who has the biggest impact of destabilizing the system by calling out every other government on earth pretty much for being dictatorial. Al Jazeera has our next headline. WHO says immune barrier from vaccines still far off. Live news. UK starts rolling out COVID-19 vaccine as drug maker Pfizer moves closer to approval in the hardest hit United States. WHO organization official warned only public health measures, not vaccines, can prevent a new surge of COVID-19 cases as the first vaccines are administered in the United Kingdom. Like, wait a second. Now, it's one thing to say, hey, eventually the vaccine will prevent a surge of COVID-19 cases. And until we get it out there, then we need the public health measures. Okay, sure, but that's not what they're saying. Only public health measures, not vaccines, can prevent a new surge. Read between the lines for just a second here, and you'll see the implication is that the vaccine, which has severe side effects, many of which are worse than the symptoms of the disease itself for most people, is not effective enough to prevent a surge of cases. Now, I don't know, maybe I'm picking apart the language too much here, but just another thing to keep in mind, looking at the timing as the various vaccines are rolled out, that even if we assume that their plans are going to start relatively smoothly in the next month or two, and within the next 6 months or so, they're going to get out at least the big first wave, the majority of what they need to get out for vaccines. There's still some time before they have the immune barrier, if that's the term that we're using for this now, but to the point that it could prevent another surge in cases, or even a new fake surge in cases, because the numbers are being manipulated. We got a ways to go. Buckle up. It's going to be a while before this cloud fully clears. And I'm still trying to answer the bigger questions, and appreciate y'all's input in helping figure some of these things out, especially with our producers club. But the big one for me is, do we come out of this overall with positive or negative momentum? And I'm inclined to believe positive, because that would be going with the overall trend and in line with the beautiful march of human progress. But this could be one of those setback events that really is with us for a while. But also, how long are they going to be able to get away with the kinds of policies by government that serve the special interests and their political sponsors? Miami Herald has our next COVID headline. Did COVID data whistleblower hack Florida's emergency alert system? Police raid home. Now, I didn't want to get into the story, and is this someone who's questioning, the fear mongering, or that there's not enough fear? I don't even know, and I don't care to know. I remember seeing the story, months ago. This was Rebecca Jones, fired from her job in May as the Geographic Information System Manager for DOH's Division of Disease Control and Health. But this is it. Yeah, they're rating people managing the statistics, and I think the overall incentive is just to keep people confused. And I'm confused about the details that I know are not worth my time or attention. You're welcome, CJ. Now, two more stories in our block here from studyfinds.org. Third of Americans binge drinking during COVID pandemic, but lockdowns make problem worse. Alarming new study reveals that binge drinkers are taking down 4 to 7 drinks in a single sitting. From social isolation to fears about job loss, the stresses of living in quarantine can have a devastating impact on millions of people during COVID-19. For drinkers, the problems of living in lockdown may be even worse. A new study finds harmful drinkers or binge drinkers consume more the longer they stay in COVID isolation. Again, just one more measure of the cure being worse than the disease. They're not drinking because of COVID. They're drinking because of the policies that are being forced on them. Speaking of which, our last headline in the block from news9.com, all remote learning, and that's all remote, that is learning that happens entirely remotely, is failing many students all across the country. Quote, these children are struggling. Weird, convoluted headline. Students in about 40% of school districts across the country haven't seen the inside of a classroom in more than 8 months, and their grades tell a sad story. New academic performance numbers suggest the disruption to in-person education is taking a heavy toll on many students. Now, I'm a fan of the Mark Twain quote, never let your schooling get in the way of your education. Never worry about grades as a measurement of how good you are as a person. They are merely a means to an end. And if the end is not the one that you choose, fuck your grades. It doesn't matter. Don't be invested in that. And I think a lot of there's more to this, obviously, and this is education is a big way we're coming out of this with positive momentum, because although there are a lot of challenges in this adjustment right now, the benefits of unschooling, self-guided learning, of kids engaging with what is of interest to them in a way that keeps them involved in their own education. That's the bigger positive shift that we have coming out of this. All right, that's my Corona block. How was the time?
I think you went under time there. I
Had to switch studio spots because I had to bring Falcor out to go to the bathroom. He was bugging me, but look at this. I think low key 209 found the way that they're coming up with the regulations for the corona. He says they just roll a dice and make up new COVID statistics. Like he has an example. It's a 3. Masks don't work, but you can die after 10 p.m. in California. Next roll is a 2. Masks do work now, but bars need to be closed. They just roll a dice and put pre-rolled stupid shit out. That's hilarious.
Yeah, the curfew thing really is the most obnoxious.
CJ died of the Rona.
Yeah, but no, the thing about curfews, like the virus only comes out after 10 p.m. So don't be caught out after 10 p.m. or you'll get the Rona. Like, how stupid do they think we are?
Yeah,
it's
pretty stupid, I think. To answer your question,
they've made us this way.
CJ's putting that one up too. He says 1054 said, sounds like CJ is suggesting COVID discussion is more contagious than COVID. And he's not wrong, he says.
Yep.
Funny. Yeah. Low key. Oh, yeah. I'm down for the regular alien content. Low key thought he had COVID, but it turns out it was just the after effects of the Jack in the Box.
I thought I had COVID, but it was just the government flu.
Yeah, Empty Matter says COVID only comes out after 10 p.m. here in Cali. It's science. Black Mirror is becoming documentary just like Idiocracy. Once the drones look like bees were there.
Yeah, well, okay. We'll leave that comment up for a second. I want to make sure I respond to this properly. Jim, have you seen the Black Mirror TV series?
No.
I think what I saw was the first 2 seasons. It's really good. It's kind of scary, dystopian, not quite science fiction, like, just a little bit into the future, or examining just it's kind of hard to describe, but it presents really thought-provoking dystopian situations. And it's sort of like, Idiocracy. Oh shit. 1984 was supposed to be a warning, not an instruction manual. Same with Idiocracy. But same with the Black Mirror. It's like, someone was warning us about this and we didn't listen. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff like in Black Mirror that we see kind of coming true now. And I don't want to, it was a couple of years ago that when I watched it.
Have they predicted more than The Simpsons?
It's not predictive. Some of what a lot of what they throw out as plot lines are sort of, hey, what if this crazy thing, this one little crazy thing was altered about reality? We're on the verge. What if this happened? I don't think it's trying to be there's a lot of like predictions you could say built into it, but it's just storylines.
What if?
Yeah, I would recommend it. It's a good little mind fuck. It's a good mind bending, horizon expanding, abstract thinking exercise. But the drones the size of, sorry?
I was just saying, Black Mirror compares it to modern Twilight Zone. It's really good if that's your thing you're into.
Yeah. Well, some of it's like disturbing and hard to watch and kind of intense.
Yeah, the Phoenix Lights right there.
What's that?
Those are the Phoenix Lights right there. We just saw on the screen. I had to point that out for Fiona there. She's here for the aliens.
We'll get to the aliens already. We have to cure COVID first. Coronaphobia. I think that's what we do. We do every day, though. Covering Corona fearlessly to help you get past the fear and not allow the fear of the fear mongers and the media and government to manipulate you. I think when we are like, and again, I can't imagine really on average doing less than 10 minutes a day on Corona as a service to the audience. because I mean, I don't know, maybe CJ in South Dakota is so privileged in his own little bubble that, you know, he doesn't have to hear about it or talk about it or be influenced by it. But for most of us, I mean, even for me, like just, you know, and I'm pretty well in my own bubble here in Gardenia, you know, but I got to go out to the gas station and the post office and run errands, and I got to keep track of all these things. And for most people, it's a lot more than that. And I think if we weren't covering, you know, one of the things we've covered a lot is the, you know, the lockdowns coming and going. But even that, we haven't tried to be comprehensive. I think we've covered it just enough to give people a sense of the texture, so that you're not going to be surprised by anything if a cop walks up to you and says, you need to have masks over your ears today, sir, because now we believe that corona can be transmitted through earwax, at least in public. And if you're going to be with a group of 3 people or more, you have to be holding hands but 6 feet apart. You know, I mean, just like if you weren't paying attention to the shit, if you were, if you were watching Anna versus the Man, and I couldn't at least give you the sense of that, you know, I feel like I would be irresponsible, and shit might take you by surprise out there.
Well said. Don't Be a Status has a guest to change the subject.
All right.
He has a guest for the contest. Was the clip the Arsenal of Democracy speech from FDR? No, it was not. So that's a good wrong answer. He's in the Producers Club anyways, but maybe somebody else will have a guess.
Well, I have
Oh, here it
the
is.
honor of the presidency, that I have contributed to the part required from this high office to bring the republic through this dark night. And if in my administration we shall see the break of dawn of the better day, I shall have done my part in the world.
I shall have done my part in the world. How come nobody talks like that anymore? Like real slow and specific. Nobody talks like that.
I mean, I could do opening monologues as cold opens and talk like that every day on the show if you really want me to, Jim. But I can't keep it up for 2 hours. No, you know, like I think of some of the speeches that I've given, and most speeches that I've given are, you know, off the cuff or loose notes. But there have been a handful of occasions where I have scripted speeches and you know, more or less memorized them for delivery, like my Revolution March speech from 2008 that I'm somewhat known for. And you know, you just it makes me want to organize rallies just so that we can have occasions for lofty speeches, but you have to have moments for them to be more than you know, rhetorical masturbation.
Yeah, well, not to bring it back to Rona, but I kind of feel like right now is a good time for that. Right now is a good time for a major speech in a big public area with a lot of people listening. But, you know, look for that opportunity. That's all I'm saying.
Well, there have been a number of small ones. Trump attempted, you know, the Million MAGA March in D.C. following the election and didn't really turn people out even for that.
CJ has something else to add, I think. Go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That's how we will start and end our Corona blog every day from now on, with a bookend, beginning and end, to make sure that shit stays contained.
There you go. Don't Be a Status says, yes, earplugs, because the sound frequency of flatulence spreads the Rona.
All right.
That'd be funny if they tried to push that one on us. What else we got for the day? We still don't have any callers. Everybody's being shy Sallies.
All right, I just want to comment. All right, well, let's talk about aliens. Maybe someone will call after we talk about aliens. You ready, Jim?
Hey,
all right,
aliens.
let's do it. First headline in our grab bag. JPost.com, the Jerusalem Post, credible news outlet as most would esteem it. The headline is, former Israeli space security chief says aliens exist, humanity not ready. And this is by Aaron Reich from just earlier today. This galactic federation has supposedly been in contact with Israel and the U.S. for years, but are keeping themselves a secret to prevent hysteria until humanity is ready. Which makes you go, well, why are we hearing it like this then? Don't they have those Men in Black memory eraser devices? The story starts as the state of Israel made contact with aliens. According to retired Israeli general and current professor Haim Eshed, the answer is yes, but this has been kept a secret because humanity isn't ready. What, and you just decided that we're ready now? Speaking in an interview to Yediot Aharonot, Eshed, who served as the head of Israel's space security program for nearly 30 years and is a 3-time recipient of the Israel Security Award, serious credentials, explained that Israel and the U.S. have both been dealing with aliens for years. Now, I wonder what other evidence there is with this other than, one guy's testimony, right? The 87-year-old former space security chief gave further descriptions about exactly what sort of agreements have been made between the aliens and the U.S., which ostensibly have been made because they wish to research and understand the fabric of the universe. Really. There's certain things about, first contact, if you will, to borrow the term from the Orville, one of my favorite science fiction shows. And there are certain dynamics when one intelligent life form figures out interstellar travel before another. There are, it's not just, oh, you have a ship, now you're here, and now we see eye to eye, aliens to humans. No, not like that. But this, that they needed, the idea that aliens who are capable of interstellar travel needed the help of the United States government in order to understand the fabric of the universe? Well, if you believe that, I got a government bridge to sell you. If true, this would coincide with U.S. President Donald Trump's creation of the Space Force as the 5th branch of the U.S. Armed Forces, though it is unclear how long the sort of relationship, if any, has been going on between the U.S. and its reported extraterrestrial allies. But how does this coincide? What is the timing? It's just like it happened afterwards. Okay. But Eshed insists that Trump is aware of them and that he was on the verge of disclosing their existence. However, the Galactic Federation reportedly stopped him from doing so, saying they wished to prevent mass hysteria since they felt humanity needed to evolve and reach a stage where we will understand what space and spaceships are. As her wife's chosen to reveal this information now, Eshed explained that the timing was simply due to how much the academic landscape has changed and how respected he is in academia. As he explained to Yediot, if I had come up with what I'm saying today, 5 years ago, I would have been hospitalized. Now, the language of that, of course, there's got to be something lost in translation. Come up with? You didn't learn it, discover it, create it, be a part of it. You came up with it. He added that today they're already talking differently. I have nothing to lose. I've received my degrees and awards. I'm respected in universities abroad where the trend is also changing. Eshed provided more information in his newest book, The Universe Beyond the Horizon Conversations with Professor Haim Eshed, along with other details as how aliens have prevented nuclear apocalypses and when we can jump in and visit the Men in Black. While it's unclear if any evidence exists that could support Eshed's claims, they did just come ahead of a recent announcement by SpaceL, the group behind Israel's failed attempt to land a spacecraft on the moon in 2019, uploaded to social media with the text, get excited again. The announcement contained a 15-second video of the moon with text saying back to the moon, followed by the date of December 9, 2020. It is likely this is a follow-up to the Bereshit spacecraft, which crashed after engineers lost contact with it just minutes before it was due to land. However, the follow-up project titled Bereshit 2 is expected to take 3 years to be ready. So I'm inclined to give this I don't know, a thumb and a half down, 80% of thumbs down, something like that. Doesn't pass the sniff test for me. I would now, is the guy crazy? Maybe. I mean, he's 87. Most human brains don't last with full function that long. If I had to bet, I would think it's more likely that he's, having a little joke at everybody else's expense in his golden years. Craig Darty comments, the aliens only contacted the USA and Israel. These aliens sound racist. Yeah, there's also, why is the story? Yeah, I didn't know how much we were going to deconstruct that element of it, but thank you for pointing it out, because, I mean, as I said, like, really, they needed the U.S. government for anything. Kind of crazy or just hard to believe. But yeah, why the U.S. and Israel? We are God's chosen people. There's a tribalism and a superiority complex, maybe not racism, built into the mythology of this story, it seems. G. Jones 604, that Israeli scientist is just doing a marketing stunt for his new book. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Craig, CJ has skills. Yes, the visual production on that segment was incredible. All right, so we're going to get through our grab bag now while we've got just a few minutes left in the show, 19 minutes specifically. And then we're going to go back to the comments, see if we have any more contest entries to guess our clip, and wrap things up with the good news. So Sky News, news.sky.com has this headline: Olympics 2024 breakdancing confirmed as new sport for Paris Games. Skateboarding, sport climbing, and surfing will debut at the delayed games in Tokyo next year. I thought there was a distinction between sport and performance, not that performance can't be athletic and that sport can't have an element of performance, but that dancing isn't in the Olympics for that reason. But then you go, wait a second. Ice skating's an Olympic sport. What the heck is that? All right. Too many things to comment on with the Olympics. Our next story, BuzzFeedNews.com from Hamed Ali Aziz. The Trump administration is trying to force BuzzFeed News to divulge its sources with a subpoena. Quote, "This is embarrassing for ICE," the former acting director of the agency said. "When you're trying to intimidate the press, you cross a line." Immigration and Customs Enforcement investigators issued a subpoena this week demanding BuzzFeed News identify its sources, an extraordinary attempt by the government to interfere with a news outlet acting under the protections of the First Amendment, and a move that the agency's former chief lambasted as embarrassing. The effort to pressure BuzzFeed News into revealing sources comes after relentless efforts by President Donald Trump's administration to undermine the free press. The outgoing president has for years lied about news outlets that publish true but critical stories about him and his administration, calling them fake news, which has opened up reporters up to threats and violence. So, I have some sort of, mixed feelings around all of this. Not that I would ever support the government somehow bullying anybody into revealing anything they don't want to, but this bigger issue with journalism, or it's the media. I am grateful that in the United States, if only because of the First Amendment and the people who have built a beautiful culture around that, we have a pretty good standard of respect for journalism, at least on paper, right? Journalist rights, not journalism itself. Sorry, excuse me. Of course, look at most news consumed by the American people. But the idea that you can therefore, if you're the press, you have there's special privileges of the press. And for a long time, there was a more clear delineating line between the press and everybody else. But now anybody who says, I am, because I say I am, therefore I'm a citizen journalist, you are claiming all of those legal protections for yourself as well. But these protections shouldn't be designated based on some privileged or special social function of media or the news or the press or whatever, you know, legal distinction here is being used to undermine the free press, which is a joke. If you don't have a free country, you can't have a free press. We have nowhere near a free country. And you pick apart all the ways that you know, is relevant to censorship and distribution of mainstream media. All right, I'll stop there. But this idea that you can be pressured into revealing your sources, problematic at a different level, because you have a right to privacy in your communications. Simple as that. It's not a special press right. There's a way that this is being articulated as a press right, but it really comes down to and has to be recognized as a universal human right. And I think the way it's sometimes talked about as separate holds us back from seeing that and actually extending it farther. However, the internet's phenomena of an explosion of independent journalism, and you know, who knows how many more Americans now calling themselves press because they, you know, like they were able to get a little press badge printed out and laminated at FedEx, and you know, put it on a lanyard and wear it. I'm press. I'm press. That's all it takes. You know, what makes you press? Is there, you know, some form to fill out? No, you just choose that designation for yourself. CNN, next headline. Again, an interesting mark of progress. New Los Angeles DA announces end to cash bail, the death penalty, and trying children as adults. Newly elected LA County DA George Gascon announced sweeping plans for criminal justice reform as he was sworn into office Monday. Gascon defeated 8-year incumbent Jackie Lacey as he assumed the head of the largest prosecutor's office in the nation Monday. He said his new agenda for LA, which includes ending cash bail for certain minor offenses, the death penalty, and the practice of charging juveniles as adults, will differ from his predecessors in order to better prevent crime, reduce recidivism, and restore victims. Now, you know, is Mr. Gascon, you know, an honorable, well-intentioned man because he's doing this? Not necessarily. Even if he was he could be. I don't mean to judge based on this, but it's probably more likely that he's, you know, a low morals politician like the rest of them. So why is he doing these things that reduce the viciousness of the legal system so distinctly? And these are overdue legal reforms, but it is just part of the general trend of government becoming less vicious over time, more accountable to the people, that in order to maintain its overall racket, it has to give up its most offensive parts. It has to cut off gangrenous limbs in order to save the body. And maybe LA County's policies about cash bail, death penalty, and juveniles aren't exactly on that scale. But you want a bigger example, look no further than where we are with cannabis legalization right now. All right, we have at least two. I don't know if we're going to get any more from the audience or from the Producers Club, but we want more of these. Positive technology stories. The first one from Unilad, that's unilad.co.uk, China developing smart city run entirely by AI with sensors, collecting people's live data. Now, I know a lot of libertarians see the headline and think this is not good news. This is not technological progress. This is dystopia. And there are major concerns about privacy. But that's, you know, that's so anyway, just to explain what this is. Residents living in AI City and their visitors would be served by intelligence, which uses data collecting sensors and devices to gather information about them. While its founders say the project, which is named Cloud Valley, is designed to provide a more comfortable standard of living, others have raised concerns over the potential privacy issues it raises. Well, there aren't really privacy issues in a voluntary society where your rights, your physical property is all respected. Why do we have privacy issues? Because we live in a world dominated by modern, centralized, coercive, bureaucratic governments that don't respect your rights. And so we put up the shield of, no, respect my privacy. Like, and that's supposed to protect us from specific intrusions. Now, in this case, you know, anybody who's doing anything as significant as this, they're going to be elements of government involvement. This is not an entirely free market phenomena, but it is still fundamentally by choice. As far as, I mean, it is China. They do have a tendency of forced relocation in their history. But then I go, so does the United States, and that Native American thing that keeps getting swept under the rug. Danish architecture company Big and Terminus, a Chinese tech company, revealed their plans to build the smart city in the southwestern Chinese city of Chongqing. It's got to be something like that. During an online tech conference web summit last week, quote, this is from from Big founding partner Bjarke Ingels. It's almost coming back to this idea of living in a village where when you show up, even though it's the first time you're there, the bartender knows your favorite drink. And that's a pretty bad example, because I don't think it's really gonna be about that so much as accountability, emergency response, and quality of life. Bigger stuff first, then did the bartender get your favorite drink? Because we got apps for that if we needed it already. If it was too much work for you to vocalize your drink and consider if maybe you want something apart from your usual at that moment. But there's a bigger technology application that is happening in the city that you could say this is too dominated by government. I don't think it is. I mean, we'll reserve judgment at least. But if people are choosing to be a part of this, it's because there is an application or a set of applications of technologies that we have that have yet to be applied properly to a city. And now we get to start cities from scratch, knowing that this technology exists. We are going to be able to create so much more. And this is, again, why I'm such a fan of localization. Getting government down to the community level allows for the creation of communities. And remember, a community is not like a country necessarily. A community, by definition, is something that you choose to be a part of, which means you can choose to opt out at any time, which means it's a voluntary system. So as we get government down to the local level, I would predict that we're going to see a lot more of this technology employed in new communities and new cities. And whether you like it or not, don't be a central planner. Don't force your preferences on other people. If they're not forcing them on you, offer your opinion. But we should generally be supporting projects like this rather than opposing them, because as we get more connected, more aware, more capable of meeting basic animalistic human needs, the harder it is to manipulate us by fear, the harder it is for government to continue to exist. Our last headline from Jalopnik.com. This magnificent undersea tunnel in Denmark will cut an hour-long trip to 16 minutes. An undersea tunnel and roundabout between towns in the Faroe Islands, set to open later this month, will reduce a 64-minute trip to just 16 minutes and will look utterly beautiful while doing it. The Eysturoy, I think that's how you say that, tunnel connects Tórshavn, the capital of the Faroe Islands. My apologies to the people of the Faroe Islands, a territory of Denmark in the North Atlantic, to the villages of Strendur and Saltness to the north. The tunnel network is 11.24 kilometers long, or about 6.8 miles, and the public is expected to begin using the tunnel starting December 19th. Until now, the route from the capital to those northern points stretched 55 kilometers. When the tunnel opens, the trip will be just 17 kilometers. Now, I would not pretend to be any kind of infrastructure expert or even futurist expert, or just someone who would make this call in terms of the infrastructure investment. But I'm inclined to believe that investment in major projects like this is a malinvestment that is mostly the product not of the free market, but of government being able to steal from citizens and then put huge amounts of money into things like the Big Dig. And there's the Channel, and so anyway, here we go. We have the number. The Eysturoy tunnel costs an estimated 1.4 billion Danish kroner to build, which translates to about 160 million US dollars. Now, it's estimated to handle 6,000 vehicles daily. Just over 52,000 people live on the Faroe Islands, and the company responsible for building both tunnels explained the importance of the new tunnel for the population on its website. Now, here's the thing. By the way, this is a toll road. You'll pay about $12 each way, but there's a yearly subscription, et cetera, et cetera. But why do I think this is a malinvestment? I think I kind of have to back that statement up, right? $160 million. And I'm not just going like, what could you do with $160 million? How many starving children could you feed? How many free laptops could you distribute to students, et cetera? No. But just in the transportation industry, I think a lot of these major infrastructure projects happening today, even things like the Hyperloop to connect San Francisco to LA, one of Elon Musk's projects, and tunnels. He's talking about the boring company, as in boring through the earth. And yes, it's his little clever play on words. But there's this huge investment that assumes that the individual unit of transportation, the automobile, will still be the dominant paradigm as the thing that moves your body around the earth. And that's definitely going to change. And we have the technology already. It's out there. We have seen flying drone taxis in Dubai deployed. We've seen a variety of Japanese countries working on different versions of that. But a self-flying drone of some kind, we have the technology for it. Why can't we have nice things? Because government, regulation, taxes, oligopolies, and corporate oligopolies make it much harder for new technologies to come out that challenge entrenched industries. Look at the documentary Who Killed the Electric Car? It was the oil and gas and auto industries. And they were able to do that because of our fucked up system that of intellectual property. So anyway, maybe this is an interesting topic we should come back to as to, what is the next paradigm of transportation. But, if someone from my amateur perspective can envision something and can see it on the horizon with technology that's already here, that's going to render so much of the current transportation paradigm obsolete, I know that there's a lot of, at very least, a lot of malinvestment one way or another when it comes to these technologies. But still exciting news. Humanity can do this and put in giant tunnels through the earth. All right, let's get Jim back up and play this clip again one more time before we close the contest for the day and reveal the answer. CJ, let's get the audio and Jim up on stage, shall we?
If it shall appear that while I have had the honor of the presidency, that I have contributed to the part required from this high office, bringing the republic through this dark night, and if in my administration we shall see the break of dawn of the better day, I shall have done my part in the world.
All right, you got a couple minutes to get your last entries in here. Jim, any other comments or your thoughts on those stories in our grab bag block?
Well, no, just one actually. Fina Benone, our good friend, comments, that's nothing compared to Hawaii's $10.2 billion rail.
Did it connect Hawaii to the mainland?
I highly doubt it.
So
that would cost more than $10.2 billion to connect Hawaii to the mainland.
Well, I mean, if I didn't make it obvious, I where we're going, we're not gonna need any roads. Like that. There's if self-flying drone taxis of some kind are at least part of the future transportation paradigm, a lot of these tunnels are just going to be sitting there empty. I mean, pretty safe prediction that when we go through this next paradigm shift in transportation or technological shift, there's going to be a lot of facilities abandoned. And, you know, I've looked at some of these from the perspective of a homesteader and been like, no, government just fucked up those resources, and now it's a big pile of concrete that you can't use for anything else. Tough shit. Kind of sad.
Yeah, if it works out that way. So how many years would you guesstimate until you, Adam Kokesh, are able to go buy yourself a vehicle that's not a car, like a flying drone or whatever? How long till you are going to go buy one to get yourself around?
That's
or do you
probably
think that would be possible in your 10 years?
Well, I mean, because we have all the technology that we need for what I'm talking about, to have every kind of tied in concept of self-driving or self-flying cars that, you know, fly up from your house to meet up with some, you know, regional ship that flies you even faster from LA to New York. But you stay in your own, it's sterile. You can't get coronavirus that way, right? You have your own little pod as part of the, you know, the bigger mothership or something like that. It's one of those things that it could happen surprisingly fast. There's nothing major holding back the implementation of this technology. I mean, nothing major, just government, just a little government in the way, right? Just,
yeah, okay.
Just a little nuisance.
Pesky little government.
So, I mean, it hypothetically could be 2 or 3 years, but I think that's unlikely. I think more like 10 for self-flying drone taxis or cars to be the dominant paradigm, or at least starting to be widely available. I think before that, we'll have self-driving cars widely available, you know? And it's kind of funny. It's like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of, I mean, it's like putting a supercomputer as your control module, you know, on your 73 Pinto or something. Like, you go, wait a second, you know, why are we putting a self-driving computer unit in a car that burns gas in an internal combustion engine and spins 4 rubber wheels down a paved surface? We're still doing that? Like, why? It's got like, and if that's maddening to you, as it is to me, I hope you take that as motivation to, you know, understand why, to study the message of freedom, to study economics enough to really get that one. All right, but let's wrap things up here. Jim, any other general comments before we get to the contest?
No more comments, but last comment from me that I would like to see that would solve the problem of wasting these roads is if we made cars like the DeLorean that have the option of riding on 4 wheels or flying to handle all that business. Then some people can still use the roads, because there's always going to be a vintage group of people that want to have an internal combustion engine car just because they want to, you know, they want their Mustang. There's people that are not going to get rid of their Mustangs or their Corvettes or you know what I mean, their muscle cars and
Jim,
cars they're proud
I don't know
of.
if you know this, but most commercial airplanes have wheels on them.
Yeah, but
they got to land and they got to taxi. You know, and I think inherent in this technology, there will be some limited, you know, ground maneuvering function, because you're going to have to get around once you land, probably, right? You're not going to.
Yeah, but I'm talking about
pick up and
full
fly
ground function. You know, not just for taxiing and taking off.
When we get Doc's, oh man, now the name, I just had the name of the vehicle, DeLorean. The DeLorean. When we get Doc's DeLorean.
I'm gonna take a
CJ
nap,
wants
so I
to
just
play
figured I'd show you guys a little bit what I'm doing out
What are
here.
you doing, CJ?
So
just playing a little random cornholing video, I guess.
mirror there.
All right.
We're just waiting on that broke down paver. My dad's behind me.
Maybe he's pointing out the insufficiency of the roads, and if his truck flew, he wouldn't be in that problem.
Yeah, you know, drone taxis function or can function like hovercraft, you know? So Yeah, to your point, CJ. All right, CJ, you want to explain that and then reveal our clip if we don't have any more guesses?
That's what I'm here for. So that clip that you just saw was me when I used to drive a semi to make roads. And I drove asphalt with my dad. And you just sit there in a long line and wait to dump a load of asphalt. And then some track thing just comes and pushes it inch by inch by inch by inch. And then everybody's on the clock and it breaks down for just a little bit of rain. It's a very expensive process. And as a libertarian, I get very triggered. So I'm like a libertarian truck driver making roads. Like I've lived that life. And it makes you think like this is very expensive and inefficient. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hold on. Any other guesses, Jim, before we reveal?
Well, we've only had one. We had one. Low key 209 said, "Just want to throw out that clip is Herbert Hoover's acceptance speech." So he got Herbert Hoover correct. CJ said it was a closing speech. Is that the same thing, CJ?
It's closing remarks.
Dawn of the better day, I shall have done my part in the world.
So that's it. I think.
Generally, you get an inaugural speech and a farewell address on your own terms. Well, then, yeah, we have a winner. Congratulations to Loki 209.
Jim at thefreedomline.com.
Anything else you want to say about the significance of this clip?
No, I just you guys wanted a contest, so I threw together a contest like old school.
That was a great one. Great one. All right. Well, then to the good news. Excuse me. It was on this day in 1943, Jim Morrison of The Doors was born. On this day in 1991, leaders of Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine signed an agreement dissolving the Soviet Union and establishing the Commonwealth of Independent States. On this day in 2004, the Cusco Declaration was signed in Cusco, Peru, establishing the South American Community of Nations. On this day in 2008, Christy Williams was elected by the Welsh Liberal Democrats and became the first female to lead a political party in Wales. On this day in 2010, SpaceX became the first private company to successfully launch, orbit, and recover a spacecraft after the second launch of the SpaceX Falcon 9. On this day in 2013, Volunteers for Operation Gratitude, a nonprofit military and veteran support organization, assembled its 1 millionth care package, a milestone cheered by thousands of supporters assembled for the celebration. And with that, don't forget to support this show. We need you. I want you to go to AdamVersusTheMan.com and find us on Patreon. Join the Producers Club for $10 a month. Check out the store at AdamVersusTheMan.com, and you can get 15% off and free shipping if you won membership in the Producers Club, like Loki 209 today, or if you're a better or better patron. Better is one of our tiers, so you can be a better or better patron of Adam versus the Man. You can also support this show by going to CigarFederation.com, where promo code ADAM10 gets you 10% off. And MakeThemDebate.com, where you can find my profile and help our debate manager, Mercedes, make some more debates happen. Also, I got to throw this one in there too. You know it, CJ. You can support what we're doing here in Gardenia, or at least keep track of what we're doing by finding us on Instagram at the Garden of Freedom. And with that being said, thank you so much for listening. Mwah. Peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.